Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we explore the timeless tales that shape our world. Today, we have a heartwarming story that comes from the misty depths of folklore. A tale that reminds us that kindness is a currency that never loses its value. It's the legend of the grateful fox. So, settle in, get comfortable, and let's journey together into an ancient forest. Once upon a time, nestled at the edge of a vast and silent forest, lived a poor but honest woodcutter. His life was simple, and his days followed a familiar rhythm. Each morning, just as the sun began to paint the sky with hues of orange and pink, he would venture into the woods, his trusty axe resting on his shoulder. He'd gather fallen branches and logs, bundle them up, and carry them to the nearby village to sell for just enough coins to feed his family. It was a hard life, but one filled with the quiet dignity of honest work. One particularly bitter winter morning, the world was draped in a blanket of pristine snow. The air was so cold it stung the woodcutter's cheeks, and his breath turned into little white clouds before him. As he trudged through the silent forest, the crunch of his boots on the snow was the only sound, or so he thought. Suddenly, a faint whimpering cry cut through the stillness. It was weak, desperate, and seemed to come from a thicket of snow-dusted bushes nearby. Curiosity and concern guiding his steps, the woodcutter made his way toward the sound. Parting the thorny branches, his eyes fell upon a heart-wrenching sight. A beautiful fox, its fur the color of autumn leaves, was caught in a cruel hunter's snare. The metal wire had cut deep into its leg, and the pristine snow around it was stained with crimson. The poor creature was exhausted from its struggle, its amber eyes filled with a mixture of fear and pain. It looked up at the woodcutter, trembling. Many in his position might have seen the fox as a potential meal or a valuable pelt, especially during such a harsh winter. But the woodcutter's heart was filled not with greed, but with compassion. He saw not a wild animal, but a fellow creature in distress. Kneeling down in the snow, he spoke to the fox in a soft, soothing voice. There, little one," he murmured, "I'm not going to hurt you. Let me help." With gentle, practiced hands, he carefully worked to loosen the snare. The fox, sensing his kind intentions, remained still, its whimpers quieting. Finally, with a soft click, the trap sprang open, and the fox's leg was free. The woodcutter then tore a strip from his own worn tunic and tenderly bandaged the bleeding wound to staunch the flow and keep it clean. Once he was done, he gave the fox a comforting pat. The fox looked up at him, its intelligent eyes filled with an expression of profound gratitude. It then bowed its head low, as if in a formal gesture of thanks, before turning and limping softly away, disappearing like a shadow into the dense woods. The woodcutter watched it go, a small smile on his face, feeling a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the winter sun. He then picked up his axe and continued his day's work, the memory of the grateful fox a quiet comfort. A few days passed. The cold snap intensified, and a heavy sickness fell upon the woodcutter. A fever left him weak and shivering, confined to his humble bed. He couldn't go to the forest to gather wood, and without firewood to sell, his small savings quickly dwindled. Soon, the larder was bare, and the faces of his wife and children were etched with worry. Hunger began to creep into their small cottage like the winter cold itself. Despair was a heavy guest at their table. Just as they were about to lose all hope, a firm, clear knock echoed on their door. It was a strange sound. They rarely had visitors, especially not in such weather. The woodcutter's wife, her face pale with concern, went to open it. Standing on their doorstep was a young man she had never seen before. He was dressed in immaculate, fine clothes that seemed entirely out of place in their poor village. His smile was warm and his eyes held a kind light. "Good day," the stranger said with a polite bow. "I was told a skilled woodcutter lives here. I've come to buy some firewood. Please, bring me whatever you have." Confused but hopeful, the woodcutter's wife explained their situation. From his bed, the woodcutter overheard and, mustering all his strength, pointed to a small, meager pile of wood in the corner, the last of his stock, barely enough to keep their own fire going for another night. His wife gathered the few logs and presented them to the stranger, apologizing for the small quantity. The young man simply smiled. "This will do perfectly," he said. He then reached into his purse and pulled out a coin. But it wasn't a copper or silver coin. It was a gleaming gold coin, shining brightly in the dim light of the cottage. It was a fortune, worth more than the woodcutter would earn in an entire year. The woodcutter and his wife stared at the coin in astonishment. "Sir, this is ... this is far too much." The woodcutter stammered from his bed. "The wood is not worth a fraction of this." But the young man simply placed the coin in the wife's hand and said, "A good man's labor is always worth a great price. Keep it. Your family needs it." Before they could utter another word of thanks or ask who he was, the stranger turned and, with a final, enigmatic smile, seemed to vanish into the swirling snow outside. He was gone as quickly as he had appeared. With the gold coin, the family was able to buy food, medicine, and enough firewood to keep the cottage warm. The woodcutter's health began to improve, and the cloud of despair that had hung over their home finally lifted. That night, as the woodcutter slept soundly for the first time in days, he had a vivid dream. In his dream, he was back in the snowy forest, and standing before him was the very same fox he had rescued. But this time, the fox spoke to him, its voice as clear as a ringing bell. "You saved my life," the fox said, its amber eyes glowing with wisdom. "I am a spirit of this forest, and I could not let your kindness go unrewarded. It was I who visited you today in the guise of a young man. You showed me compassion when I was helpless, and now I have repaid your good deed." The fox's image began to fade, but its final words lingered in the woodcutter's mind. May you and your family live in peace and happiness from this day forward. Remember that goodness always returns to the giver. The next morning, the woodcutter awoke, feeling refreshed and completely healed. The dream was still vivid in his memory. As he sat up, his eyes fell upon a small embroidered pouch resting on the table beside his bed. It hadn't been there the night before. His heart pounding, he reached for it. It was heavy. He untied the drawstring and poured its contents onto his blanket. A cascade of gleaming gold coins tumbled out, enough to ensure his family would never know poverty again. The woodcutter and his family were overjoyed. He used the money wisely, repairing his cottage, providing for his children's education, and always making sure to share his good fortune with others in the village who were in need. He never forgot the lesson he had learned. The tale of the woodcutter and the grateful fox spread throughout the land. It became a story told by grandparents to their grandchildren around crackling fires on cold winter nights. It served as a beautiful, enduring reminder that an act of kindness, no matter how small it may seem, can create ripples that return to us in the most unexpected and wonderful ways. It teaches us that compassion is a bridge between all living things, and that a good deed is a seed that, once planted, will always blossom into a blessing. Thank you so much for joining us for this beautiful story today. I hope it brought a little warmth and magic to your day. If you enjoyed this legend, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next journey into the world of folklore. We love hearing from you, so please share your thoughts on the story in the comments below. Until next time, stay kind and stay curious.